All right, everyone. Good afternoon. I will now call the September meeting of the Sustainability and Economic Vitality Committee to order. As expected, our committee covers topics related to sustainability initiatives and the economic vitality of our great city. Note that there are no formal votes or decisions about city programs, policies, or budgets that will happen here. Our role is to just explore various topics with staff and stakeholders and community members and to make recommendations to our council colleagues. We want this process to be transparent, inclusive, and easy for you to be part of wherever you choose to be. And you could share your thoughts with us by filling out a comment card about any item on a meeting agenda or by reaching out to us directly with any other thoughts, questions, or ideas. The link to the comment cards can be found on our committee webpage at tempe.gov/SEV, and you'll find contact information for committee members and staff for non-agendized items, questions as well.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Adams. The next item on our agenda is item number 2, review and approval of meeting minutes from the August meeting of the Sustainability and Economic Vitality Committee. If there are no objections, I move that we approve the minutes from the August 21st, 2023 meeting as written.
I have no objections and second the motion, so the August minutes are unanimously approved. Our next section is public comments. Do we have anyone wishing to come up at this time? Hi, Ann. Come on up.
Do you want to read that part about?
Oh, yeah. And before you start, you can come on up, but I'm going to just read something. The next item on our agenda is item 3A, public comments. This committee welcomes public comment. According to the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the committee may only discuss matters listed on the agenda. Matters brought by the public under public comments that are not listed on the agenda cannot be discussed by the committee. A 3-minute limit per person will be in effect. Ann, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ann Till, Tempe resident. Smith Road. At the last public outreach in December, HDR stated landscape and shade options will occur where there is room. With that statement, the city failed its residents. All bike and pedestrian routes are useless without shade. Shade should not be an afterthought. Council, I ask that you insist that Smith Road pathways are designed to be very shady. In every single future project relating to streetscape and multi-use paths, the RFP should require as a priority green stormwater infrastructure, low-impact development, shade, cool and permeable pavement and sidewalks, and that we only use contractors with engineers and landscape architects that are very well versed and experienced in these concepts. Cool streets and pathways are essential to our future. We want people to be able to walk and bike instead of using cars. If we build it right, then people will use it. These policies are not an option. Other Arizona residents know it is hotter in Tempe. A2, water conservation. I've spoken about the need for both water conservation and urban heat reduction. The two are related. Reducing urban heat saves water. I use wood chip as a ground cover instead of rock. How does this relate to water conservation? Vegetative materials such as wood chip keep the ground moist so that plants and trees need watering less frequently, and it keeps roots cooler so that less water is used each time they are watered. People need less water if their environment is cooler. What about pools? Increased heat causes rapid water evaporation. Permeable pavement and sidewalks are cooler, plus trap water for nearby trees instead of sending it to storm drains, etc. As you can see, urban heat causes an entire chain of events. Everyone should be concerned about urban heat. In summary, promoting methods to reduce urban heat helps water conservation. And one more thing, dirt and rock yards often have constant weed issues. Many residents just want no maintenance. A 6-inch layer of wood chip discourages grass and weeds, and wood chip is free. At least encourage wood chip use in these yards, cool surface and less weeds, and probably less 911 calls, or 311, sorry. And urban forestry, I want to thank the urban forestry team for all the tree installations, and I especially like the one along Concordia and River. We can't wait for the future shady pathways. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Ann. Appreciate it. Brooke, do we have any more comment cards?
There are no more comment cards at this time, Vice Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is item 4A, current items and updates, and we'll begin with item 4A1, an update from an engineering and transportation department. Principal Planner Bonnie Richardson and Principal Civil Engineer Kathy Howell are here with us today to provide an update on improvements along Smith Road. I'm excited to hear this presentation.
Let's see if I can get this started. It's okay. Okay, good.
Hi, good to see you guys.
Hey, well, you already introduced us, so we'll just get right into it here.
Okay.
So this project addresses, one of the things it addresses is Council Priority 3.26, the 20-minute city, encouraging other modes of travel. So the purpose of Smith Road is to promote pedestrian and bike comfort and accessibility, to provide some on-street parking for the residents, and to maintain business access. And just a real quick background, I think you're somewhat familiar with this, but the Smith Innovation Hub Infrastructure Master Plan, which was approved in March 2022, recommended improvements for Smith Road from Rio Salado to University. And then subsequently, improvements from the master plan were extended south to Apache Boulevard. So now we have a whole master plan from Rio Salado to Apache Boulevard.
So cul-de-sac would be included in that.
They're at the very south end, yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So here's a little summary of what the project includes, and I've broken into north and south because you'll see later that's how it's being built. But the north half here in green, it'll have bike lanes, it'll remove the on-street parking, improve street lighting, landscaping, have green stormwater infrastructure, sidewalk improvements, and it does maintain the two-way left turn lane. The south segment has two parts because it's just a little bit different between the two. Segment 1 has separated bike lanes with landscaping, removes the on-street parking, and then has some similar improvements like street lighting, landscaping, green stormwater infrastructure. It does also have the removal of the right turn lane that exists at University today, and it includes a median for entry feature at University. Then the third one, South Segment 2, will actually have sharrows on the road. There'll be some on-street parking as requested by the residents, street lighting, landscaping, some of the similar improvements, green stormwater infrastructure. It also will have a median for a future entry feature at Apache, and there's a speed table at 10th Street. We did all this with public input and some final neighborhood comment from the neighborhood leaders. We had meetings on January 13th and March 30th of this year to review the final, basically close to final plans or concepts, and cul-de-sac representatives were also in attendance. The neighborhood leaders presented their top priorities, and this was for the south segment, and that was trees, bike safety, buses, trash cans, and parking. Subsequent discussions with cul-de-sac included requests for protected bike lanes where possible and shade for bicyclists. As a result, the city plans to add tough curb with tubular markers to the bike lane buffers in both the north and south segment. The south segment, there's just a little bit of space for it, but the tough curb is shown here in the drawing. It's actually a piece that we have on Mill Avenue near the streetcar. And then the other picture shows what what we call tubular markers or candlesticks look like when they're placed in the tough curb.
Just a quick question. So the candlesticks will be
Will
what
be
area?
on every piece of tough curb.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Thank you.
And with that, I'm going to have Bonnie talk a little bit more about some of the details of the project.
So like most of our street projects, we really take a view of green stormwater infrastructure and how that integrates with what we have in our existing streets. And I'm happy Ann was here before we spoke because I hope to assure her that we're doing quite a bit in order to answer some of her recommendations. So wherever we can install landscape areas, we look to collect rain and storm water. But we do have to supplement that with a drip system because in our high heat summers, we can't count on having enough of the stormwater to maintain our trees and plants. This new paver that I'm showing here is called AquaRock pavers. And we're looking that in areas where we can put some paving near where trees are, it provides a structural backfill, so it will remain steady and level, but it also allows more water to penetrate through to the roof structure. And underneath, we have a structural backfill. So these are all things we're doing to try to improve the opportunity for the tree to grow to maturity and thrive. We typically use a root barrier near utilities, so we don't have any conflicts there. And our overall goal is providing canopy shade and cooling for people walking and biking. In this process, I will show you on the next sketch how we might be integrating some of this pavement.
Just a quick question for you. On the pavers that you showed on the last slide, would they be cooler than, like, let's say our bricks downtown, those pavers?
Yes.
And,
Mainly because there's spacing between the bricks.
Okay.
So that when it is wet, it provides moisture down and then it cools the brick surface itself. Depending on what color we select, and they have a variety of colors, we would probably select lighter than this color so that it doesn't absorb the heat. But so often we're weighing the value of materials that will sustain use over time with the heat properties of the materials. So in the best of all worlds, we'd have decomposed stabilized granite, but that doesn't work so well when we consider ADA criteria and stability.
okay, thank you for the clarification.
So this gives you a couple of sketches as we were developing with the landscape architect in HDR. And bus stops along Smith, we're intending to enhance them with trees and low landscape. And we're also going to be adding some of our new transit shelters, which we are starting to fabricate right now. So they will be some of the first that are placed. Orbit comes down the street as well. And Orbit, typically, you have to board right at the curb where the bus can pull up. So we've designated likely areas where most people would want to wait for the bus. And that's, again, where we're putting these pavers. You can see the tree shade. We also have to be aware that we keep visibility for both the drivers in both directions and the bus. So we will put lower type landscape infill wherever we can, and then even behind the pavement. So again, where we're installing, even if they're bushes or low landscape, it does add to the cooling properties that we're putting around the stops. And then at the lower left, you can also see how the low planting, we're able to create a shallow area that accepts the rainwater in both by the trees and by landscaping. So we're hoping this makes a much more pleasant place for people to, while they're waiting for the Orbit. Enhanced trees and landscaping. So here you see just a snippet of the full design where we're actually pulling the sidewalk behind the trees so that we can get the trees in an area that does shade the sidewalks and part of the road as well. We are severely limited on Smith. We have very narrow right-of-ways, and our direction is that we are not to purchase right-of-way, but instead work with what we have. So we have the opportunity to try to manage what we're doing up to the right-of-way, which you can see in the dashed areas there as well. I'm also hopeful that we might, working with our urban forester, consider a way to work with the industrial businesses that are located closer to Rio Salado and see if there couldn't be some enhancement program where they would be willing to plant shade canopy trees near the sidewalk on their property. We haven't attempted this, and it may take us a while before we're able to implement something like this. But I think really, moving towards the future, we have to start to be partners with the businesses and the residents and try to figure out a way we can help encourage them to plant trees. Okay, next. So up at Apache, Kathy mentioned that we will have Charos, so that means that the bicyclists will be riding in the traffic lane. Some of that allows us to provide more landscaping. So we did hear the neighbors when they said they wanted more landscaping. And so in this area, just south of Apache, we can accomplish that. We also need to provide some parking in this area. So we had to use some of that right of way for parking. We did eliminate as much as we could, but we still had to address the residential criteria for needing to have a place to park on the street.
Ready?
I think that's our
One more.
last, oh, how could I forget our bus shelters? So we will be putting the micro shelter in where we can. And there are 3 stops that you can see listed here. These are for the Metro bus that we're putting in the micro shelters. And there's a 4th one that's actually being put in by an apartment complex that's already building and in construction on Smith near Rio Salado.
Yeah.
So again, we're trying to make a commitment to our neighborhoods that we can provide good transit and comfortable places to wait for the bus.
Very nice.
Okay, thanks, Bonnie.
Yeah.
So last thing we're going to talk about is the schedule. We wanted to meet council's request for acceleration of the project, so we actually split it into 2, so we could get started on one while we're finishing the design on the other. The north segment is actually out to bid right now. Bids are due September 26th. So after that, bids get checked and approved, and then it should go to council. The plan is November 9th for approval of the construction contract, with construction starting either late December, early January, and being completed in June of next year. And then the south segment, we're actually going to use a CMAR contractor, construction manager at risk. And the current schedule for that is for the design to be complete in February, council approval of the final CMAR contract in March, start construction in April, so there'll be a little bit of overlap between the 2, and then complete construction in October and November of next year, this time next year, or close to this time next year.
And I will mention that the curb and candlesticks that Kathy was talking about, those will be installed after the construction of the street improvements, because we're going back in after the contract is finalized to be able to add those through our transit funding.
Very good.
And that's what we have for today. If you have any questions.
Oh, looks really good. I'm glad that we're moving forward with it and getting it done, because obviously cul-de-sac is open and ready for
Yeah.
business. So it's exciting that they'll have their dedicated bike lanes, and I'm glad that you worked with the neighborhood so well and really were inclusive about what they needed to. It sounds like you got a lot of different things to balance, so I appreciate that, parking, the bike lanes, things like that. So it looks really good to me. Do we, I just open it up to Brooke, do we have any other questions from the public? It looks like we have a question in the back. You want to come on up? And if you guys want to just sit close to us, so we can do a little Q&A.
Alejandria, will you state your name and place of residence? And you have 3 minutes.
My name is Alejandria Gutierrez, and I live in the Escalante neighborhood. I'm on Howe between River and Smith. So this has been a big thing for our community, Alegre and Escalante neighborhood associations, and cul-de-sac as well. I want to, first of all, thank you guys because we had to fight and have more meetings to get what the neighborhood needed and to understand that there are 3 sections of Smith Road, not just one, so you can't go by one rule. One of my, there are a couple questions that I have. How many trees are going to go up? What kind of trees? Because my understanding is that the city puts up trees and nobody takes care of them and they die. And so I know that there is an arborist, I think,
do.
through the city.
Yes, he's very good.
So to make sure that what we have are not going to die in 3 months because of the heat or because people walking by them, you know, lots of kids and stuff. So that's one of my questions. What kind of trees? How many trees? And what about the trees that are already in neighbors' yards? Okay, because we have a couple of really beautiful trees, you know, and shade. A question that I've never gotten answered is there's a standpipe on the corner of Don Carlos and Smith that Alegre Neighborhood Association got a grant for. Kids from through school, people who lived in the neighborhood helped to put designs and cut the tiles for that standpipe. I understand that because the side, which I never understood anyway, the way the sidewalk ramp goes down and it has to be widened, what is going to happen to that standpipe? When I asked that question, the developer goes, oh, it'll be moved. What do you mean it'll be moved? You know, where is it going to be moved to? How far can you move it? It's already on the corner. That means you'd be going into somebody's yard, the person who lives there on the corner. Is that feasible? So I just think that with all the hard work that Alegre Neighborhood Association, that the students, this was on my aunt's wish list to do something like this. And she was able to accomplish it before she died. I don't want to see that lost. Sorry. But I want to know what's going to happen to the standpipe. Okay? Those were the biggest questions was what kind of trees, where are they going to be at, and the standpipe. So I thank you guys very much.
Thank you for participating. I really appreciate it. Kathy, and if you guys want to come up and Bonnie and maybe Richard too with the trees.
So I can answer the one about the standpipe. That's
Okay.
the easier one. It's not moving.
It's
So-
not moving.
Right, it will be there. So,
Okay.
so I can answer that one.
Okay, stand by
The trees
staying.
are going to be Bonnie and Richard.
And any trees that are standing are not being taken down. I mean, we are identifying those trees that are really valuable on the street, and then they add to our canopy cover. So
Okay.
we're certainly not out removing any trees. We are removing or moving the unsightly trash containers that lined a part of the street and gave it an unattractive appearance for people going up and down Smith. So those are being taken care of. We've worked with our trash removal people on that.
Okay.
And I'd like to, before Richard steps in here,
Is he here?
acknowledge that
Yeah, he's here.
we are conscientious about maintaining our trees now. I will say that given the last summer with so many days over 110, a lot of trees have suffered, mature trees as well as newly planted. And on Alameda, we lost some trees. We're going back in once it starts to cool next month and replanting what we lost due to the climate. But Richard works with our landscape person in transportation, who is Sean Thompson.
Okay.
And he, again, has done a great job on improving our landscape right-of-way throughout the city. I'm sure you've noticed. And so I interface with both of these guys whenever we're looking at a landscape to be sure we're selecting proper trees and we're making sure we can get enough water to them so they'll be maintained. And then they take over for proper pruning, because one of the most important things we need is is to have. Okay. The most important thing is to have a good opportunity for the trees to thrive. And by pruning them properly, we get the canopy above the bus, above the extending bus mirrors. These are all kinds of things we have to consider, as well as the large trucks that come through Smith, because from University of Rio Salado, it's still relatively industrial. And so we do have a whole different set of standards and opportunities for what we can and can't do. We would have loved to have taken out the dual turn lane because we could have had more side right-of-way to use, but because of their delivery trucks, we're not able to do that. So I'll let Richard talk. I have to tell you that I didn't come prepared with a full count of trees and the types of trees, but they are all water sensitive, so they require low maintenance water as well as any of the other infrastructure landscape that we're putting in. So I can get back to you on the numbers and you know, if we can fit more as we're out in the field, we'll do it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, we can
Okay,
get you the
thank
numbers for the north because it's already out to bid. So
Okay.
those numbers are readily available.
We're still working on the south section, so we have more to approve in terms of the design.
Okay, maybe you could meet with the woman that came up and just discuss it. I didn't catch her name, but after our meeting, you guys can meet
Yes, yes.
a little bit,
think
just to
we-
touch base.
We are, I mean, I know this project's been going on a long time, but I think certainly since I've been involved with it, we've really been trying to meet closely the desires of the community and also looking at the new community that's being built at cul-de-sac.
Okay,
And I'll just put in a little hit piece here that we've got some other good news happening on Apache because we received the Department of Transportation Thriving Communities grant. And we're just now getting that up and going. So the community will see a lot more plans and designs and interaction with the community on that portion.
very good, thank you. I know we have another public speaker that would like to come up. If you can come up and state your name and address, that would be great.
Hi, my name is Terry Eakin. I live in Escalante on the 10th and River. And I just had an idea or a thought to get into the pipeline of a potential tree subsidy of perhaps a water credit for some of the really cool trees that we have in our neighborhoods or for the business people along North Smith. That might be helpful to them because we've commented before, we've had a lot of casualties this summer on the trees, and as people check their budgets, oftentimes the trees are one of the first things to get cut out. So that, I know it takes a long time to figure out the mechanics of that and get the support for it, but I would just like to present that as perhaps an option that would be helpful in getting more shade and more tree cover.
Thank you, that's an excellent option, and our water director is here today, so you can touch base with one another after we're done. Come on up, Bonnie.
I forgot to mention that we did an example of planting and using bark and wood chips in our streets, and it's working well. At first, people thought it wouldn't. So we try to use that in the landscaping that we do put in because it is a much better water resource that way.
Very good.
And it cools more.
Thanks. Do we have any other public comments? Councilmember Chin, what would you like to comment on?
Oh, I just wanted to, thank you, Vice Mayor. I wanted to address a misperception that was communicated. The city of Tempe does not plant trees with the objective of them dying. We plant trees because we want more trees, and we are planting trees, and we have an overall council priority for shade canopy, to increase shade canopy. And just a nod to, and others have mentioned it, that this last summer was unprecedented in the heat and the drought and was horrible for people and plants. But just please be assured that we want our trees to grow. in the city. And we try to protect them, and we try to choose carefully the right trees for the area. But thank you for all the comments and addressing the comments and questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Chen. We'll now move on to item 4A2, an update from our Water Utilities Division Interim Water Resources Manager Tina Sleeper, who is here to present on Tempe's water conservation efforts. And I've had the great pleasure of having Tina come out to our home and give us advice on how to save water, and it really does work. So thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for asking us to come back to present on this important topic. So Tempe Water Conservation, this program. Oh, yes, thank you. Excellent. I never have this problem. I'm usually just short. So Tempe Water Conservation is dedicated to educating the community on effective water use that maintains a high quality of life and produces a more water resilient future. And this program is an important component of a topic we hold dear, Tempe's drought preparedness and resiliency efforts that we presented upon last SEV meeting. Using water wisely, it helps to maintain low water costs, it reduces the need for supplemental water supplies, and we are driven to pursue new and effective opportunities to conserve water, reduce waste, and increase efficiency. Some of those new opportunities will be through partnerships and grants. Pleased to share that Municipal Utilities and the Community Services Department recently partnered for a water conservation grant from the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority of Arizona, also known as WIFA. And in August, the WIFA board approved a grant to remove non-functional turf from 4 city parks, including Dwight, Harrelson, Goodwin, and Creamery. Community Services will receive over $100,000 in water conservation grant and rebate funds to transform more than 27,600 square feet of non-functional turf into desert landscapes. Non-functional turf is basically grass that's located in areas that are adjacent to hardscape, adjacent to walls, located in areas that are around signs, too small to water efficiently, or located on slopes where that water just runs right off. So this effort will not only save water and reduce costs, but it will also help introduce more habitat and pollinator plants into those parks, drawing more visitors, diversifying the city green spaces. The Community Services Department has set aspects of this project in motion at certain city parks. Some of the projects are shown in the pictures on the screen. Tempe is not just receiving grants, but we're also giving them out to help make water conservation projects happen. Tempe relaunched the industrial grant and selected the first 2 grant recipients of the Water Efficiency and Education Grant in 2023. A grant review committee consisting of municipal utilities and community development staff assessed the applications and selected the first 2 grant awardees of the revamped program. Tempe approved $60,000 in funds for 2 commercial customers for non-functional turf conversion projects, which will save a projected 64 million gallons over the next 30 years. And there's a quote on the screen from one of the grant recipients, the United Dairymen of Arizona. In addition to grants, we have also been working on evaluating our rebate programs and making improvements where the data indicates changes are needed. For example, our indoor fixtures commercial rebate was expanded to include more fixtures, clothes washers, kitchen aerators, and dishwashers. Our non-residential turf replacement rebate was also increased from a cap of $3,500 to a $10,000 cap, focusing on removal of those non-functional turf out there. Tempe has some of the most robust and customized offerings of rebates and grants. We have more than 10 programs that are customized for our customer classes, including residential and non-residential customers. And I want to highlight that we also have a tree bait program that incentivizes the planting of low water use plants, including shade trees. And the rebate programs, they don't just provide incentive, but they provide us with an opportunity to educate on the best practices when these projects happen, such as landscape conversions, to make sure that there is a more holistic view when doing those projects and that they're implemented using the best practices possible. Tempe is not just enhancing our financial incentives, but we're also working to increase our educational incentives through our workshops and messaging. Tempe City Council recently approved a resolution to increase funding for the regional water conservation messaging campaign, Water Use It Wisely. Tempe has been a steering committee of this regional campaign since 1999, and it has been adopted by more than 19 municipalities and organizations in the water utilities field. It aims to keep water conservation on the forefront of everyone's mind and acknowledges the reality that the public that we serve that utilizes water may live, work, and visit multiple municipalities. So it provides that cohesive regional messaging so there's consistency in the actions that people can take in order to advance water efficiency. It also enhances our ad buying dollars, pooling the funds from those 19 partners. The increase in funding will enable the city to invest in enhanced campaign packages that help intensify and scale messaging when needed. Being members of Water Use It Wisely has been very helpful as we have also utilized the outreach produced for that regional campaign locally. And one example is our fall skip winter overseeding campaign, which seeks to educate on the benefits of forgoing that winter lawn. Some of the messaging that has gone out there utilizing adjusted versions of these infographics produced by the campaign have been gone out in emails, neighborhood listservs, been incorporated in the water conservation e-newsletters, postcards that have gone out there, and it's also featured on a new web page, landing page, tempe.gov/skip winter lawn. The simple action of skipping the winter overseed can save more than 8,000 gallons of water for every 1,000 square feet of grass. The overseeding process is also stressful for the Bermuda grass, and skipping that overseed can lead to a healthier and more vibrant summer grass. Through this campaign, we also want to highlight the efforts that Tempe Parks has engaged in recent years to skip the overseed. The majority, 57 out of the 58 of Tempe Parks, do not winter overseed. Ordinances have also played an important role in managing water demand in Tempe over the years, and we continue to evaluate them to make sure that they're effective and aligned with regulatory language when needed. Tempe held the first public hearing recently to adopt ordinance amendments that strengthen Ordinance 9146 and 9811. 9146 is the water wasting ordinance. It is primarily used by water conservation staff to bring awareness to water waste and produce education on how to make repairs and address that water waste. Among other changes, the amendments help clarify the definition of water waste to be consistent across the 10 cities and towns of the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association. When water waste is observed, I want to point out that our customers can call our partners over at Tempe 311 or submit a request through the Tempe 311 app or online form so that we can follow up immediately to get that information to those who need it. 9811, refers to the Water Conservation Report or Water Use Plan, and it requires that commercial development submit a report detailing water conservation and efficiency efforts, and that must be approved before a building permit can be issued. Among other changes, the recent amendments ensure that the requirement applies to new commercial portions of mixed-use buildings and structures, and they also clarify the type of information that should be included in each of those reports. Tempe's water conservation program is not just data-driven, but it also utilizes data to help our customers conserve. You may have heard many times of the Water Smart Customer Portal, where our residents can go and look at their historic usage, find potential savings. But recently, Tempe has partnered with the Salt River Project to pilot a water-fluent software program to help those managing large landscapes view their water usage as compared to their water budget. Early in 2023, as part of this pilot, Tempe added 3 city landscape facilities to the portal. You can see the dashboard for one of the facilities on the screen. And what this chart is showing is historic water usage, which is the blue lines that you see going up and down historically. And it compares it to the green waves that represent the range of budgeted water needs for the landscapes associated with this facility. And as you can see from this chart, the blue lines of actual water usage, they're getting much closer to the green and should continue that way moving forward, now that we have this dashboard to keep tracking. This month, we'll be adding 3 homeowners associations, which are part of our HOA water budgeting program, that have stepped up to participate in this pilot. And we're also adding 6 city parks to the dashboard. Community services are again partners with this project, and they'll be monitoring their water usage on the dashboard to, one, monitor the usage as they always do, but also to help us determine if this software is an effective tool for water management moving forward. For each landscape that is onboarded, the Municipal Utilities, Water Utilities Division staff also create a customized landscape water budget that is particular to the landscape plants and square footage of each of the properties. And that's what's utilized to power this dashboard. Each year, Tempe estimates water savings from water conservation activities, including rebates given out, consultations provided, leaks repaired. And for the calendar year 2022, Tempe estimates 114 million gallons will be saved from efforts recorded by the water conservation team and produced by residents, businesses, schools, neighborhoods, and parks. These efforts are just part of a long history of success in water conservation and demand management. Since the year 2000, proactive water conservation efforts resulted in a 19% decrease in the potable demands, including the residential water demands represented in this chart in the purple and blue bars of our water service area, while the residential population, represented by that orange line, has increased by 21%. And I will note the population doesn't include our daytime population, doesn't include business and industry and growth. So despite all of this growth, water consumption across all customer classes has decreased. And we just ask that all our customers continue to practice that conservation mindset, take actions to reduce water waste, and lead to long-term improvements in water usage. Some of these to consider registering and updating contact information on the WaterSmart customer portal to ensure that our customers are receiving those potential leak alerts and taking action, including contacting our staff for any help needed to find the source of those leaks, removing non-functional turf when possible, installing desert plants when possible, and considering skipping that winter overseed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tina. I don't have any questions. This was an excellent presentation, and love the WaterSmart program. So, Councilmember Chin, do you have any comments?
No questions or comments. Thank you. I'm also a WaterSmart customer. Signed up.
Very good. Did Tina sign you up?
No.
Oh.
Thank you both.
Thanks so much, Tina. Appreciate the presentation. All right. Let's see where our next item is going to be. Richard. Let's see. Thank you so much for the update. And the next item on our agenda is item A3, a presentation from Tempe's urban forester, Richard Adkins. I think we have great timing today.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, Vice Mayor Adams, Councilmember Chin. My name is Richard Adkins. I serve as the city's urban forester. Closer? There you go. Is that better? All right. So my charge and responsibility is not only the physical trees that are located on the city's maintained properties, but to administer the city's urban forestry master plan. That's basically to provide a more sustainable green resource for our residents. This entails working to train and develop staff, oversee contractors, as well as provide technical advice to city development projects like the one we've heard earlier, which I'm going to get to that. We also offer technical assistance to residents regarding any of their tree-related issues that they call me up for. To this end, we partner with the Tempe Water Conservation folks and their staff to provide community workshops. We also work with local groups and organizations, and I visit with HOAs and neighborhood associations often to discuss trees, their benefits and values that all support the healthy lifestyle here we have in Tempe. So with the support and encouragement of management and city council, I do oversee performance measure 4.11, which is to achieve a citywide 25% tree and shade canopy by 2040. Now, this is to be met through managing the urban forest master plan, the principles and values of which actually mirror the primary objective of this council committee, just more from a tree-based perspective. So this afternoon, I just wanted to provide a brief overview of urban forest activities and our programs, and I'm happy to address any questions or concerns you might have as we go along. Of course, I'd rather this be a more organic type of conversation, and I can go in any direction you'd like. And with that, I'd like to jump back to Smith Road that was referred to earlier. And I'm happy to speak with the resident after the meeting, and we can talk about the tree species, but you had that question of what species were. It was very challenging on that project. Bonnie alluded to all of the infrastructural details and problems that we need to oversee. Basically, what we're looking at is there's red push pistache. If I remember this project correctly, we're going to have some fruitless olive. Those are the main trees that we planted along the side to provide shade along the sidewalk. And then we have the accent plantings in the medians of a ghost gum, as well as some Texas mountain laurel to provide some color as you go. All of that is in mind with making sure we've got site visibility triangles, as well as we can work with the buses, the bus stops as they go through, and just provide with all the utilities that we have going in that area so that we have proper tree species for that. So those are the main species that we have going in there. Okay. Well, to get started, I just wanted to start with a definition of what is the urban forest, because people always ask me that. So really, what do you do? I like your title, but what do you do? Okay. So I oversee the trees in the city, but the urban forest is comprised of trees on both public and private property. That's all the vegetation. And it's basically the human-forest interface, which is a keystone for urban living here in the valley, because trees provide economic, environmental, and societal health benefits, as you can see here, I have listed here on the right, that really do provide benefits for all of our neighborhoods, our businesses, our residents, as well as visitors. And as you know, the city property really comprises only a very small percentage of the actual land base in Tempe, so it's very important to consider private property, and we offer educational and informational resources for them. Because really, be it private or public property, trees are a low-risk, high-yield investment for the community. So with that, just some quick numbers, Tempe by numbers, understanding that this represents just a snapshot in time, because trees are a very dynamic resource, living, growing, changing all the time. So we have 27,600 trees throughout the city on city-maintained property, with 17,900 trees in parks, preserves, and facilities, with the remaining 97,000 trees on right-of-ways in our multi-use trails. This represents over 100 different species and varieties of trees, palms, and tall cacti. Now, the structural value of all of those is almost $64 million if I had to replace them all. And they provide just over $1 million annually in environmental and economic benefits for the residents of Tempe. Currently, our canopy cover is 11.4%. That did change up on the slide there a little bit, didn't it? And that ranges from 7% in some of our industrialized areas to 24% in some of our older established neighborhoods. I did also want to add that over the last 3 years, we've averaged planting over 1,000 trees each year throughout the city. But I also want to augment that with we've removed 550 trees per year during that same time frame. Currently, Tempe's per capita spending is $13.46 annually, which is up from $3.06 just 10 years ago. Since the adoption of the Urban Forest Master Plan in 2017, and then my subsequent hire in 2019, the council has definitely favored the program with budget to help provide for staff, equipment, as well as programming support. Now, while we had outreach was a little stymied during 2020, we are getting that back up on track and getting more off of the Zoom meetings and more back into in person. We actually have a workshop with water conservation out at Women's Club Park coming in mid-October. And then you're going to see at the end of the presentation, I have some emblems that Tempe has been a Tree City USA for 27 years, receiving growth awards for good stewardship for the past 21 years. And we've also been recognized for the 4th straight year as one of the Tree Cities of the world. Now, the program's only been in play for 4 years, so pretty happy with that. That's a Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN program. There's only 170 cities that have been recognized around the world, 39 in the United States. We were the first in the state of Arizona and still remain as such.
That's very impressive, Richard.
There's a lot of players involved in all of that, right? So, the goals of the Urban Forest Master Plan seek to increase the tree canopy, but basically with appropriate species selection. I'm working to make sure that I have climate-adapted species moving forward when we're doing re-landscaping or we're working in like projects at Smith Road, Mill Avenue, anywhere with our right-of-ways or even with our city parks. Because I think that demonstrates the city's commitment to really having a sustainable green program moving forward to provide green space for our residents, which further empowers them, only for their private properties, as well as the businesses, organizations, and city staff to just really care for the urban forest resource. Now, we are supported, we being the Urban Forest Master Plan, by other strategic priorities and performance measures throughout the city and other departments. And we also are part of the Climate Action Plan, as well as an important heat resilience strategy for the city. Now, currently, we are looking to revise the Urban Forestry Master Plan along with the Climate Action Plan and some stormwater management programming activities to provide a more encompassing, comprehensive, resilient Tempe master plan.
So, Richard, you would get the neighborhoods involved in that process?
Excuse me?
You would, I'm assuming you get the neighborhoods involved in that process?
Yes, absolutely. We had a first outreach meeting for green infrastructure just last week that was hosted by the Office of Sustainability to make sure that we have residents and neighborhood input on how we're moving forward with those activities.
Excellent, good. So some of the people in this room might want to attend those.
Might be want to
outreach
attend those meetings. It
efforts.
is always open. We had 30 participants at the first meeting, which was quite nice to see. Lots of good input and feedback. And those meetings will be, I think it's the first Wednesday of every month.
Okay,
And I can make sure if they want to give me their name, we can get them on the list.
okay,
Okay?
thank you.
You're welcome. So we're looking to grow the urban forest resilience throughout the community. We're doing that by establishing a proactive tree care and management team, as well as following a more measured management plan. We're utilizing our data from a tree canopy and equity maps that we developed just in the past 2 years for planning strategies, as well as looking at where we want to plant and working with neighborhoods. And of course, this helps us provide outreach programming and planting activities, and with our partners in the Office of Sustainability and some other community partners as we look to plant throughout the city. Now, last year, we put this website up. It was the first year that the tree inventory data and information was really available to the public through this interactive tree canopy and equity map. This highlights information of tree benefits and values. It shows composition of our urban forest, and it also helps plan for increasing tree coverage and equitability throughout the city. So we're using this data for data-driven decision-making as we look to not only manage the trees, the young trees, as well as some of the maturing trees, but also to help planting in certain areas throughout the city. The data can be reviewed at the census block level, so you can look at changes over time. Within this data set here, I have 2010 data, and it's against 2019 data, so you can really see changes in Tempe neighborhoods, some for good, some going the other direction over the past 9 years. And then I'm very excited because I'm updating this right now with 2021 data and some other exciting data sets. So in cleaning up the overall application, because I mean, it was the first time we put it forth. So I've found a little issues with it. So as people move through it, so I want it to be easy for them to access and to find the information. So by December, we'll have all new revised information, updated tree canopy, and equity maps for the public. So all of this warrants not only the need for proper management and planting, but the importance of community outreach, because it is about private property planting as well. So here's just a listing of some of the current community tree support programs that we provide. And we have the Cost Match Tree Program that's only a year and a half old, but we've had 30 participants to date, and I actually received 5 applications just last week for starting planting in November again. This program here is where the city matches 50% of the cost of a 24-inch box or 25-gallon size tree, and I will deliver it to your property. We won't plant it for you because it is on private property, but we'll provide you any of those instructions and care needs and then monitor it throughout the years with you.
We're going to see you driving around in a pickup with a bunch of trees in the back.
Bunch of trees in the
right?
back and dropping them off, exactly.
Excellent.
The Cost Tree Donation Program, it started in Tempe back in 2002. We've had 115 trees donated to date, and we average about 5 to 10 a year. And I already have 3 that I've lined up in our parks. These are mostly planted in our parks or in the preserves. And I have 3 lined up for October and November so far this year. The tree bait program through water conservation, Tina mentioned that earlier. We participate in that as well, providing drought-tolerant tree species selections as well as shrubs for residents that want to convert their landscape. And last year, that was almost about $5,000 of rebates that went back to residents that did some of this work. And then, of course, I participate with city staff and the Marianne Corridor Neighborhood Grant Program, which last year was $11,000 of just straight tree-related planting activities, working with both neighborhoods, associations, as well as homeowners associations. Just a few examples we've worked with in the past. We've worked with the Indian Bend neighborhood, Broadmoor community, Maple Ash, and this year, Corona del Sol is what we're working with. So in addition to just monitorized programming, educational outreach is provided through community meetings and information exchange. We've participated in some town hall style meetings with council members in the past where we just get on, have a short presentation, ask the arborist, and just have like an hour, hour and a half conversation answering people's questions. We're back into doing workshops and training opportunities for residents. And of course, just working with city departments on projects, residents on tree selection, the proper planting, proper care, and even tree protection on construction projects. That's something that's often overlooked, and we're trying to get on top of that. And just providing technical assistance as requested. And something that's very important is just the review and consider some development policies and practices. I mean, things have changed, the way Tempe is developed, and that's something we're looking at in the Resilient Tempe Master Plan, is just to look at those policies closely and see if that's something that we can change to just make a more sustainable green infrastructure as Tempe continues to grow. So with that, I want to close, and I'll just say thank you for your continued support and interest. And I'll be happy to answer any questions, accept your thoughts or suggestions you might have.
Well, you did a great job covering everything, Richard. This has been a robust discussion today. I don't have any questions for you, but Councilmember Shin, do you?
I have no questions. Thank you very much. I think trees are top of mind for all of us in the community. This year, it seems more than ever, partly because unfortunately, we've all lost a tree or two because of this harsh summer. And so much attention is being paid to overall our tree canopy goals in the city. And I thank you. Thank you for always your great information and sharing it with our residents and our businesses. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, Let's see. Okay, we'll now move ahead to item 4B, new items for consideration. I believe we have one new item, 4B1, presentation proposals for future council committee meetings. Councilmember Chin, do you have any updates you'd like to see at the next SEV committee meeting?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is the last of our scheduled discussions today, so we'll move on to item 4C, announcements. I will just do mine real quick. We do have Trees for Tempe stickers in the back, so we're really trying to get these out throughout the community to try to promote people to please plant more trees. It's very important to our future. So that is, take advantage of that 50% rebate fee for planting trees on your private property. So I'm really excited to announce this launch of our public awareness campaign. And fall and winter are the perfect times to plant trees. So this is the time of the year to plant trees. So please consider doing that. And Richard, will come to your house. He does house calls just like Tina does. And they have such a huge knowledge base. It's really good to take advantage of them, their knowledge base. So just wanted to put that out there. And so grab a sticker on the way out. And that is all I have. Councilmember Chin, do you have some announcements?
I do not.
All right. Well, our next committee meeting will be on Monday, October 16th, 2023. Thank you all for being here, both virtually out there and in person. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.